Hey, well, on the heels of yesterday's video, Bitcoin on a Budget, I made a little remark. If anybody wants to see this on Ethereum, place a comment below. Well, I had over 400 requests for it. And because of the state of everything right now in the market, I decided to do it today. So I delayed TA Tuesday for ETH on a budget. So this video is going to go over all the common questions. I can't afford Bitcoin. I'm going to buy ETH instead. How many do I need? How many do I need to be a millionaire by the year 2030? Does dollar cost averaging work? All that type of stuff will be addressed in this video. So thanks for joining. Let's go right in. This channel is about math, money, and freedom. And there's going to be a lot of math in this one too. And a couple of warnings as well. And some interesting history. So the top questions that I got for this topic was, what will ETH be worth in the year 2030, i.e. price prediction? How far will $50 a week for 10 years take me? If I invest $200 a week for 10 years, can I retire? If I invest $500 a week for 10 years, will I be a millionaire? And how many ETH do I need to be a millionaire in the year 2030? So these were just some of the common questions that came in. And these are things I think about all the time. It's like last year, how many Bitcoin do I need to be a millionaire, or how many ETH? So I've been doing these calculations for a long time, and I just love doing this. And I never thought you all would enjoy it so much. So big thank you. Now, quick disclaimer, of course, none of this is financial advice. This is edutainment. And let's just jump in. Now, I want to give it a little bit of a backgrounder. Things I've touched on before, but things that are very, very pertinent to Ethereum. First of all, the big bond issuance last week in Europe, $400 million, is a test, but it proves that crypto offers better settlement, custody, and transfer for the global bond market. Now, Raoul Pal said this has shown that Ethereum has become massively dominant. Okay, I'm going to do a subsequent video on why Ethereum is so dominant later, but it is a force to be reckoned with. The second big thing that I want to touch on is Ethereum valuation model. Just looking at financial services and Ethereum disrupting just financial services, if we could get to the stage where Ethereum could handle 1% of global financial services, the valuation would be $40,000. Credit to James Wang for this model. I enhanced it and made some additions and created this sheet from it, but I think that's kind of the direction in which he was going. So James Wang, reach out to me if you want to talk about this and other models as well. Now, the other thing as well, just to make sure everybody understands, Ethereum has gone up 32 times in the last year, which is staggering. So think if you invested $100 a year ago, you'd have about $3,200 today. So I just want to temper everybody's excitement. Don't expect to do another 32x. That being said, we've gone up 5x this year so far already, which is amazing. But again, Ethereum has just been on fire. But I just want to keep expressing words of caution with everybody. This is not sustainable. Now, that being said, if we go back, and if somebody had put $50 a week into Ethereum over the last 5 3/4 years, that would be about 300 weeks. You would have invested a total of $15,000, and you would now have 1,738 Ethereum, which would be worth $6 million for an increase of about 40,000%. The big message in yesterday's video is about getting in early and the importance of getting in early. Getting in early into Bitcoin, getting in early into Ethereum, getting in early into Tesla. And this is why it's so important. So it's very important to keep tabs on exactly what's happening, what the winning companies will be, and get a piece early on. Now, I know there's 5,000 altcoins out there and everybody thinks everyone's going to be ahead. It's not going to, but there could be a couple of treasures out there. And I always scour the universe to find them as well. So on that topic as well, just to recap, better to be early and have time to try again than be late and have to catch up. Always, everybody, even if it's a little bit, get in early if you can. Okay? Now, the other question that keeps coming up is Ethereum a Bitcoin replacement? The answer is no, it's not. It is a base layer for all DeFi and many other use cases. And therefore, as a result, I believe it does have the ability to surpass Bitcoin market cap. Now, Ethereum 2.0 moving on proof of work to proof of stake, that introduces many questions, and I think it does introduce a little bit of higher risk. So I'm a little bit worried about that. And EIP 1559 in July does introduce burning, which could reduce supply, but it could also increase risk. So again, just want to stress, Ethereum is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the most pristine asset, and there is a lot of risk, much higher risk with Ethereum than Bitcoin. That being said, if Ethereum can pull off that story, like I just mentioned in the previous slides, it could be very transformational for everybody's little pocketbooks. Now, let's jump into some price predictions and my price predictions myself. So Raoul Pal believes Ethereum could hit $20,000 in this bull cycle. That means maybe before October or November of this year, maybe early next year, 20,000. He's also mentioned numbers like 40,000. So that's crazy, but there's more. There's more. Let's look at these eye-popping Ethereum price predictions for this bull run. Many believe, like Marius Kramer believes, $20,000 to $40,000 is very possible. Again, maybe piggybacking over what Raoul Pal said. And if you look at the projections for 2030, I have a whole bunch, but these are two that are of note. One is Dan Moorhead, CEO of Pantera Capital, believes Ethereum will reach six figures in 10 years, which means over $100,000 by 2030. Nigel Green, the founder of Diavra Group, also believes it'll be over $100,000 by the year 2030. So there are three big heavy hitters that say, 20 to 40,000, and then in 10 years, 100,000 plus. But I want to temper that again with my typical models. And before we go into my models, I want to show you some of what has changed since I did my last price prediction for Ethereum. The first one is Ethereum Dominance. Now, Ethereum was 15% of Bitcoin's market cap back in December 2020, when I did my big first Ethereum video on Christmas Day, saying it was completely undervalued. Now, that 15% of Bitcoin's market cap is now 38.5%, which is a staggering jump in a very short amount of time. The second thing I want to point out to you all is the ETH to Bitcoin ratio, and I did this, was 0.022 back in December. Then it went to now it's at 0.06, and I believe it's heading to 0.1. Now, why is 0.1 significant? Well, 0.1 means there will be 10 Ethereum to every Bitcoin. And a big question that I always ask is, hey, I don't have a full Bitcoin and I can't buy one, I can't get one. So how many Ethereum do I need to have the equivalent of a full Bitcoin? Well, I would say 10. And that's a future forecast, a future prediction of mine. Again, assuming everything is successful with Ethereum. So let's look at my price predictions. I do 3, as always. So first of all is my worst case scenario. And this assumes a 22% compound annual growth rate over the next 10 years. Now remember, we've gone up 500% in 4 months. So to say something like only 22% compound annual growth rate over 10 years, there'll be a lot of haters in the comments. But again, I like to be very conservative. I like to know, okay, if I want to have $1 million worth of Ethereum in the year 2030, how many Ethereum do I need? And that's why I need these numbers. And that's why a lot of people trust my judgment, because I like to be very conservative. So the price per Ethereum using this basis is 25,606 in the year 2030. My second model is what I call the ETH Dominance thesis. Now, when I first did this, I had my ETH Dominance thesis at 33%. Now I've moved it up to 15% because it's already blown through my 33% just since, I think it was February 25th. I mean, this world has moved so fast. But using this thesis, I assume Bitcoin will flip gold in the year 2030, very conservatively, even though I have higher price predictions for Bitcoin. So I'm sandbagging here because there's a lot more risk to Ethereum than there is to Bitcoin. Now, that being said, that puts the Bitcoin market cap at about 10.5 trillion in the year 2030. Now, if ETH dominance thesis goes to 50%, that means ETH will have 50% of that market cap, which is about 5.2 trillion. And the number of ETH coins, about 152 million. And that number of ETH coins will probably come down because of EIP 1559, because they will start burning coins and reducing the supply. But again, conservative sandbagging. Therefore, I have the price per ETH in 2030 of about $34,406. which again is staggering. But this one of 34K, I believe we can take to the bank in 10 years. Again, very conservative. Last case was the 22% CAGR. This is take to the bank. Now let's create a more aggressive scenario. And this is what I call the bullish scenario. And this is where the ETH to Bitcoin is 10 to 1. This is kind of what I hinted at a few minutes ago. 8 weeks ago, the ETH to Bitcoin ratio was 0.038. Now it's 0.06, and I believe it's going very quickly to 0.1. So that means if the Bitcoin price is 551 in the year 2030, and my ratio fits, we could easily have a $55,000 Ethereum in the year 2030. So that should be entirely feasible. Again, but that is a bullish stretch. I'd still rather flip back to our previous goal here of about 34,000, which is a little bit safer. Now let's go on a little bit more. Let's take an average of all three cases, because an average of three well thought out price predictions is also a very safe way to be conservative. So again, quick reminder, and I also have my February 12th, 21 price predictions where I said the worst case in 2030 was 12,800. Well, we've already nearly gotten a quarter of the way there in a few weeks, which is just staggering growth. Now the ETH Dominance thesis of 50% Bitcoin market cap will take us to, originally I had it at 33%, which would have brought us to a $23,000 price prediction for 2030. Now I've moved that up to 34,000. And my aggressive case, 10 to 1, has remained unchanged at 55,000. But tweaking the first two cases, basically increasing my worst case scenario and my expected case scenario up, that brings the overall expected price prediction on average to be about 38,400. Do with that as you may. None of this is investment advice. And I look forward to circling back in 10 years and seeing exactly how good these numbers are. But again, this space is changing so fast. And if Ethereum can accumulate a huge percentage, like 1% of all financial services, we're at $40,000 easily. Now, quick warning as well, just to be conservative, Ethereum could go to zero. There is risk with every asset. And I say that as well. There's always a 1% chance that Bitcoin could go to zero, but there's a much bigger chance that it could go to 100,000 or 200,000 as well. So always think about those expected values as we go forward. Finally, if Ethereum does go to $100,000, you can use the change to buy your Lamborghini, which is another piece of good news. That's why I like to sandbag. So I have a little extra left over so you can have some pleasures by which to live. Now let's look at the math itself. Yesterday we covered what you get if you invest $200 a week in fiat currency. You invest it for up until December 2030. You will have exactly about $100,000. And again, what's very important as well, that $100,000 assuming 7% inflation will actually have about $52,000 in purchasing power by the year 2030, which isn't very much. So let's jump into the first scenario, and that is we invest $200 a week for 500 weeks, or about 9.6 years. When we pull up the actual chart here, you can see that this will help us accumulate between 10 and 13 Ethereum. The 10 would be under the bull case, where Ethereum would reach $55,000 in value, and the 13 Ethereum would be under the worst case scenario. Obviously, we accumulate more Ethereum when the price on average is cheaper over time. That's why that delta is important to look at. In addition, the future ETH value of these holdings, based on these numbers, will be between $328,000 for the worst case scenario and $554,000, just over $500,000 for the bull case scenario. The average ETH cost we pay under the worst case scenario about $7,800 in ETH and about $10,000 under the bull case, which would be the average price we pay over time because of the appreciation model that I used for these calculations. So that is the $200 per week accumulation. Now, if we look at the $500 per week accumulation, we can see here, we would invest about $252,000 over 9.6 years. The number of ETH we would accumulate under the worst case scenario would be about 32 ETH, and under the bull case, 25 ETH. The total ETH value under the worst case scenario would be at 821,000, and under the bull case, $1.4 million, which is good. And you can see the ROI there is nearly 500% under the bull case. Remember, if we invested up front, we'd have a lot more money faster. But that's some quick scenarios. The other important thing to note is the average ETH cost under the worst case scenario, about 7,800, and under the bull case, about 10,000. So now let's answer the most important question is, how many ETH do I need to be a millionaire in the year 2030? So this is what many of you are looking for. You look at your bags. And the crazy thing is, a year ago, you could get 30 ETH for $3,000. Now, I estimate that we would need between 18 and 39 ETH to be a millionaire. Now, let me walk through those scenarios. Using the worst case scenario of the ETH price in 2030, that would be about $25,000. And the expected bull case, $55,000. And I included the average case in here as well of 38,000, which taking the expected case or the average case is a good place to start. The total ETH you'd have, this is when you buy all of the ETH today, or you have all of the ETH today and how many you need. So for example, imagine you've got 100 ETH in your account that you bought for $100. That cost you $10,000 in March of last year. Maybe you could sell a portion of that and use it to buy Bitcoin because Bitcoin is low right now. And then you could keep, for example, 26 or 30 or 39 ETH to preserve your $1 million asset in 10 years from now. And that's really the importance of this calculation. So here, buying them today, the number of ETH today using my worst case scenario is 39, and that will cost you $130,000. The expected case, if you trust the math here that I created, you would need 29 ETH. That'll cost you $97,000. So basically, at $97,000 to have $1 million in the year 2030 value of ETH is what you need. And this does not take into account staking, lending, or any of that stuff as well. And that way you could supercharge your actual returns. The bull case, you would need to invest $60,000 today. And the average expected case, you need to invest $86,000 today to buy 26 ETH. And the return on the average would be about nearly 1,100% over that time frame. The average ETH cost today for this assumption is $3,340, which is the price as we speak. So there you have the numbers. $200, $500, how many you need to be a millionaire. And again, all roads lead to Bitcoin, but some roads actually lead to Ethereum as well. And the case can be made for a very, very bullish scenario. So keep that in mind. And a quick conclusion today. And these are transformational times. What is happening in the DeFi space is truly disruptive and extremely exciting to watch. Second of all, investing early is better. Fiat hedges are key because your money will deflate. Holding cash is not necessarily a good idea. Even Ray Dalio says put 20% in crypto. Now, Ethereum has the power to completely disrupt many industries, and I've only just scratched the surface. But the returns over the next 10 years will be nowhere near as high as the last decade. So please take that into account as well. And finally, if you like this type of content and want more, join us in the Invest Answers community on Patreon. It's a fun time every day in there with a great bunch of folks. So big thank you to that community and love working with you every day. And if you like this content, hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care. Thanks. Bye.